The Obama Justice Department made big news this week, launching a review that could lead to prosecution of CIA officers. Now, you'll hear from former Vice President Dick Cheney, Barack Obama's leading critic when it comes to the war on terror. On Friday, we traveled to Cheney's vacation home just outside Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
I think it's a terrible decision. President Obama made the announcement some weeks ago that this would not happen, that his administration would not go back and look at or try to prosecute CIA personnel. And you think, for example, in the intelligence arena, we ask those people to do some very difficult things, sometimes that put their own lives at risk. They do so at the direction of the president. They do so with in this case, we had specific legal authority from the Justice Department. And if they are now going to be subject to being investigated and prosecuted by the next administration, nobody's going to sign up for those kinds of missions. It's a very, very devastating, I think, effect that it has on morale inside the intelligence community. If they assume that they're going to have to be dealing with the political consequences, and it's clearly a political move, I mean, there's no other rationale for why they're doing this, then they'll be very reluctant.
You think this is a political move, not a law enforcement move?
Absolutely. I think the fact is the Justice Department has already reviewed the Inspector General's report 5 years ago. And now they're dragging it back up again, and Holder is going to go back and review it again, supposedly to try to find some evidence of wrongdoing by CIA personnel. But in other words, a review is never going to be final anymore now. We can have somebody, some future administration come along 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and go back and rehash all of these decisions by an earlier administration.
Let me follow up on that. The Attorney General says this is a preliminary review, not a criminal investigation. It is just about CIA officers who went beyond their legal authorization. Why don't you think it's going to stop there?
I don't believe it. We had the President of the United States, President Obama, tell us a few months ago there wouldn't be any investigation like this, that there would not be any look back at CIA personnel who were carrying out the policies of the prior administration. Now they get a little heat from the left wing of the Democratic Party, and they're reversing course on that. The President is the chief law enforcement officer in the administration. He's now saying, well, this isn't anything that he's got anything to do with. He's up on vacation in Martha's Vineyard, and his Attorney General is going back and doing something that the President said some months ago they wouldn't do.
But when you say it's not going to stop there, you don't believe it's going to stop there. Do you think this will become an investigation into the Bush lawyers who authorized the activity, into the top policymakers who were involved in the decision to have an enhanced interrogation program?
Well, I have no idea whether it will or not. But it should. The fact of the matter is the lawyers in the Justice Department who gave us those opinions had every right to give us the opinions they did. Now you get a new administration. They said, well, we didn't like those opinions. We're going to go investigate those lawyers and perhaps have them disbarred. I just think it's an outrageous precedent to set, to have this kind of I think, intensely partisan, politicized look back at the prior administration. I guess the other thing that offends the hell out of me, frankly, Chris, is we had a track record now of 8 years of defending the nation against any further mass casualty attacks from al-Qaeda. The approach of the Obama administration should be to come to those people who were involved in that policy and say, how did you do it? What were the keys to keeping the country safe over that period of time? Instead, they're out there now threatening to disbar the lawyers who gave us the legal opinions, threatening, contrary to what the President originally said, they're going to go out and investigate the CIA personnel who carried out those investigations. I think it's an outrageous political act that will do great damage long-term to our capacity to be able to have people take on difficult jobs, make difficult decisions without having to worry about what the next administration is going to say.
If the prosecutor asked to speak to you, will you speak to him?
It'll depend on the circumstances and what I think their activities are really involved in. I've been very outspoken in my views on this matter. I've been very forthright publicly in talking about my involvement in these policies. I'm very proud of what we did in terms of defending the nation for the last 8 years successfully. And, you know, it won't take a prosecutor to find out what I think. I've already expressed those views.
Let me ask you, you say you're proud of what we did. This Inspector General's report, which was just released from 2004, details some specific interrogations, mock executions, one of the detainees threatened with a handgun and with an electric drill, waterboarding Khalid Sheikh Mohammed 183 times. First of all, did you know that was going on?
I knew about the waterboarding, not specifically in any one particular case, but as a general policy that we had approved. The fact of the matter is the Justice Department reviewed all of those allegations several years ago. They looked at this question of whether or not somebody had an electric drill in an interrogation session. It was never used on the individual, or that they brought in a weapon, never used on the individual. The judgment was made then that there wasn't anything there that was improper or illegal with respect to
Do you think what they did, now that you've heard about it, do you think what they did was wrong?
Chris, my sort of overwhelming view is that the enhanced interrogation techniques were absolutely essential in saving thousands of American lives, in preventing further attacks against the United States, and giving us the intelligence we needed to go find al-Qaeda, to find their camps, to find out how they were being financed. Those interrogations were involved in the arrest of nearly all of the al-Qaeda members that we were able to bring to justice. I think they were directly responsible for the fact that for 8 years we had no further mass casualty attacks against the United States. It was good policy. It was properly carried out. It worked very, very well.
So even these cases where they went beyond the specific legal authorization, you're okay with it?
I am.
One specific question about Holder. The Obama administration, you put out the statement saying that you were upset that President Obama allowed the Attorney General to bring these cases. A top Obama official says, hey, maybe in the Bush White House they told the Attorney General what to do, but Eric Holder makes independent decisions.
Well, I think if you look at the Constitution, the President of the United States is the chief law enforcement officer in the land. The Attorney General is a statutory officer. He's a member of the Cabinet. The President's the one who bears this responsibility. And for him to say, gee, I didn't have anything to do with it, especially after he sat in the Oval Office and said this wouldn't happen. Then Holder decides he's going to do it, so now he's backed off and is claiming he's not responsible. I think he's trying to duck the responsibility for what's going on here, and I think it's wrong.
Another issue: the CIA has stopped a program to kill or capture top al-Qaeda leaders, top al-Qaeda terrorists, and CIA Director Panetta told lawmakers that you told the CIA not to inform Congress. Is that true?
As I recall, and frankly, this is many years ago, but my recollection of it is, and the reporting I've seen, is that the direction was for them not to tell Congress until certain lines were passed, until the program became operational, and that it was handled appropriately. And other directors of the CIA, including people like Mike Hayden, who was Leon Panetta's immediate predecessor, has talked about it and said that it's all a very shaky proposition, that it was well handled, that he was not directed not to deal with the Congress on this issue, that it's just not true.
The CIA released 2 other documents this week. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, preeminent source in al-Qaeda,
right.
Detainee reporting pivotal for the war against al-Qaeda. While they say that the overall program got absolutely crucial information, they do not conclude whether the enhanced interrogation programs worked. They just are kind of agnostic on the issue. And then there's what President Obama calls the core issue.
Could we have gotten that same information without resorting to these techniques? And it doesn't answer the broader question, are we safer as a consequence of having used these techniques?
Well, these 2 reports are versions of the ones I asked for previously. There's actually one, the detainee reporting pivotal for the war against al-Qaeda. There's another version of this that's more detailed that's not been released. But the interesting thing about these is it shows that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and Abu Zubaydah provided the overwhelming majority of reports on al-Qaeda, that they were, as it says, pivotal in the war against al-Qaeda, that both of them were uncooperative at first, that the application of enhanced interrogation techniques, specifically waterboarding, especially in the case of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, is what really persuaded him he needed to cooperate. I think the evidence is overwhelming that the EITs were crucial in getting them to cooperate, and that the information they provided did in fact save thousands of lives and let us defeat all further attacks against the United States.